Hey guys, Mackenzie Lane with DSM 3D Creations. Today we're going to be rebuilding this 91 to 94 shifter using our base bushings, our shifter kit, and our solid shifter for the 91 to 94 shifter assembly. Alright, so let's start off with what you get in the kit. So these are all three kits. So the first kit is going to be your base bushings. These go around the base itself, and that's what's going to provide a sturdy base when you're trying to move the shifter. The factory comes with rubber bushings, whereas these are going to be a press fit plastic bushing, which is going to keep it from moving and feel a lot more sturdier between shifts. Our next option is going to be the shifter kit itself. Usually you're going to find that in these 91 to 94 shifters, or any DSM shifters for that matter, you're going to find that these have quite a bit of play in them. And what might not seem like a lot of play here feels like a lot of play when you're trying to shift really fast at 7, 8, or 9,000 RPM. And that's what we want to try to mitigate, is missed shifts and improper feel that you feel in your now 30-year-old shifters. So what this is going to do, these 6 bushings here are going to come with a packet of grease and replace the side bushings, these bushings here. Then if you look, the back bushing on this arm, which tends to be really loose. Now, this shifter itself has pretty decent bushings. Most of the ones you'll find that have been abused or not taken care of in the last 30 years are going to be broken, crumbled, and probably not even there. So it's going to feel like first and fourth are the same thing. Next on our list is going to be the solid shifter stopper. Now, this is one of my personal favorites because I like, when I'm shifting gears, I like a solid feel between each gear. It feels more like a transmission mounted right under the tunnel. Granted, you're not going to get that kind of feel with the cables, but this will be a good replacement and help get that solid feel, and that's my personal preference. So first things first, let's go over some tools. I'm going to start with 12mm wrench, 12mm socket. That's going to take the long bolt here out. We've got our 14mm socket, which is going to take our main bolt off, main nut, sorry. And then we're going to have snap ring pliers, which are going to address the small snap ring in the back. And you cannot address this unless you take the entire thing off. So if you're going to replace these bushings here, you might as well do them all. So the install itself is pretty straightforward. The only thing that might get a little bit confusing is on the back here, if you look, this nut comes off and there's a spring. Keep note that the spring keeps tension on your shifter when you move to side, and it'll bring it right back to center. There's also 2 plastic bushings that sit right underneath the spring itself. These do not come with the kit and they do not get replaced. Most of the time they are in good condition and you won't have issues putting it back on there. Other than that, this is really straightforward, especially once you get it out of the car. So something we're going to do before we start is take note of the play in here. Now this is a good shifter, like I said before. This doesn't seem like much before you see movement, but this is enough to feel it in each gear, and you can see we have quite a bit of play on the swing arm itself. There's play on the shaft here when you move side to side, as well as on these 2 bushings here. Granted, this isn't tight, but even if we snugged it up a hair, you're still going to see that same amount of play. So let's get started with the disassemblies. So we'll take that same nut out that we just tightened down to show you some differences. Slide that off to the side. It's going to make it pretty simple. This is the easy one. This one comes off and you're going to find your rubber stopper. So we'll put the rubber stopper and then the old plastic bushings. If you look, these ones are in pretty good shape. So we're not looking too bad there. Let me grab something to wipe some stuff down with here. And as you take these apart, clean them off. Alright, so the next thing on the assembly is going to be this main shaft. It's a 12mm socket, and if it spins, you can take your wrench on the back side and just loosen that up. Should be able to bring that right off. Try and make this easier. And put that lock washer, and nut off to the side. Now the spring should slide right off, and there's gonna be a metal collar in here that you're gonna wanna replace later. So make sure not to lose that because it keeps the spring tensioned and everything working well. You should be able to just take the entirety of it and slide it straight back. It should come, and it'll be a pretty positive click when it comes off. Just like that. So this whole assembly, you're not gonna be replacing. So we're gonna keep this for later. Notice even in this one, the bushings itself are good. There's also, as you can see, the metal collar in here. We wanna keep that metal collar to keep any play out of that. So slide this forward, and we'll keep this with our bolts. Keep this over here, and take this out. You're gonna pull it right out of the bottom. It should slide right out of the cup. Now, this is a pretty dirty piece, which we will clean up, lubricate, and put back. But here are the other set of bushings. There's also a metal collar right in there. So you're gonna wanna keep that. And then here are two more of the plastic bushings. So I'll put that off to the side. And then last, you got your swing arm. So take this, take your little snap ring, take those pliers. And if you're about safety, I would recommend safety glasses because these babies, if they slip, they're gonna go any way they want to, and good luck finding it if you don't have it. All right, so this should come right off. You're gonna have a washer that comes with that. And then you're gonna have your next set of bushings. So these are the bushings that come out of the swing arm itself. And it should be able to slide, if you slide this all up as one piece, you should be able to slide it right out. As I'm struggling to do that. Just like that. So these base bushings are easy enough. They've got a center metal collar. These inserts come in. You're gonna wanna slide those out. And then the rubber bushings themselves, sometimes you destroy taking them out. You can sometimes push them out by hand, but it's easier to do it with a needle nose or vise or something like that. It's a great idea. All right, now we're gonna clean this thing up, clean up all your parts, and then we'll install the new parts. All right, so now that everything's cleaned up and taken care of, we can start by installing our base bushings. Now, this is gonna be oriented a certain way. So if you look, they've got a receiver groove in them, and now these are gonna be a tight fit. So if you look, you've got, these are gonna be the bottom, and these are gonna be the top. The receiver on this one gets fit by the tongue on the top. Now this is a very tight fit, but this is what keeps the play out of this. So what we're gonna start by doing is putting this in the bottom, and it's a snug fit. So it's a snap fit, each one of the receiver ones in the bottom. And you should be able to put these in by hand, at least get them started by hand, because what we're gonna do later is you can either put it in the car and do it, or you can do it right on the bench. And we're just gonna do it right on the bench for the simplicity of it and make it easy. So now that they're all snapped in, we got this top one, and the top one has the groove, or has the tongue, and snaps right on. So you can at least get them started. That's what you're gonna wanna do, is at least press them and get them started. And that's gonna create that snug fit. So once you get them started, it's started enough that you can either put it in the car and tighten it down to get some clamping pressure on it, or what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a bolt and nut with a washer on either side and just clamp them down the rest of the way. thread that baby back out, and that's your clamp. It's not going to go anywhere. It's fixed in here, and when you tighten this down, it's going to take out any of the rest of the play. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of these together. So now we got this thing completely together. You're going to notice in the kit that we send, we're just switching over. We're going to be separating these color-wise, so it makes it easier for everyone on the other end. And that's why we've been having a hard time getting these out, because there's actually two separate sizes that we try and get them for. There's going to be two lonesome ones, and these two lonesome ones, we're going to print these in a gray color, are going to go in this bolt right here. So you're going to have 4 of the same size and 2 that you can't distinguish by looking at them right now, but they will be gray, and those are going to go in the top here. So these 2 here, we're going to take and we're going to put these right on here. So we supply a little dab of Molly Lube, and we're going to, you can snip the corner, it makes it super easy to apply it. You're just going to apply a little bit here on any of the mating surfaces where it's going to be moving. You don't need an over excessive amount, just enough to make it easier to install and make sure this thing stays lubed up.
Assembly here is pretty straightforward. It's just going to be the opposite of when we disassembled it the first time. Make sure you put the rubber bushing on before you get too far, and then take your time to make sure the bushings are fully seated, that when you put the bushings in, you can get the washer on top and the snap ring on top, and that's how you will know that everything is seated properly.
Just like that. So we have some movement there, and now this is in. So what we can do next is put that bushing in. We're gonna go front to rear with this one. So the collar's gonna slide in here, but we want to use these, what are going to be gray bushings, into the ends. Like before, we're also going to loop those up. Put a little bit on them. Make for a snug fit, but should take all of the play, at least out of the shifter. Now, another important topic I would like to touch on is your shifter cables. A lot of times, more often than not, we get a lot of questions about things not shifting right. And something you're going to want to do is adjust your cables properly, because what might have worked with your loose shifter before won't work now that it's tight. So you might have to adjust the cables so that way you get the correct amount of play, and the shifter is going to shift where it's supposed to be every time. So, just like that, we'll slide the collar in there. Just like that. We'll slide, so you got your little, call it a bucket here. You're gonna slide that right down in between here. What you can also do is, if you've been running without for some time, some bushings, sometimes you can gall up the surface here. It helps to clean this off and make sure that the mating surfaces are smooth, and apply a little lube to them. Doesn't hurt. So when it comes to this back spring, so a couple things to note is that this is going to spread apart and go on either side of this, but you're going to want to make sure this little tab here goes right around the edge of the bracket here, and that's what's going to keep the tension on your shifter the entire time. So it's kind of hard to do it in this position, but I'm gonna try and make it a little bit easier. Slide it off. just like that. Make sure that little leg is around the bottom before you end up pushing it the rest of the way on. Once it's on, it should be good to go. Make sure your little collar is in there if you haven't already. And then we can put our washer, lock nut, and nut right back on. You can go ahead and put some torque on this. What you're gonna wanna do is apply some torque and not a lot of torque. So you don't wanna go stupid tight, just snug, and that's what the lock washer here is for. You just put enough tension on it that you're gonna see it's gonna be able to move, but you're not going to be over tightening it, because otherwise you can actually compress this and it's gonna bind up. So just enough that you can press the lock washer and maybe an eighth turn more, just to make sure it's not going to come loose again. So now we've got the main moving of the assembly, and it's coming together rather well. So on this last portion here, put this off to the side, you've got your stopper. So there's going to be, with the stopper, you're going to notice there's a rough side and a smooth side. Take a look here. The smooth side is going to go against the stopper, because there's a taper on here which helps keep this to slide into place and push into place. This should be the outside when you're done with it. So it's easy enough to apply. You just have to put a little pressure on it, and it's a press fit. So there is a little bit of pressing that you can do with your hands. And if it comes down to it, don't be afraid to push down. Press it on the rest of the way. Easy enough. If 140 pounds of me can do it, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. So just like that, comes on the outside. So that's gonna give that solid shifter feel that I personally like. It's one of my favorite things, and that's why I thought it would be awesome that Ryan offered it to everybody else. All right, so you're in the home stretch. You just got that on, and now you're looking to put the last two bushings in. These ones are gonna be easy enough. Apply a lube to them both and lube the shaft. I'm just kidding. We don't have to go that far on this. But it is important to put assembly lube on these beforehand. That way it makes it easier for install, and it makes it easier for the end user, you guys out there, to be using these. So put it in each end. Slide that baby on. Make sure your stopper is going towards the base. You should be able to slide that on with relative ease. Look at that. It's so beautiful. Really nice. And just like that, we're going to apply your washer, lock washer, and nut. Again, just like the last one, you want to tighten this baby up, but not super tight. We're just talking crunch down that lock washer. Just like that. Don't see any play here anymore, and any movement you make is going to be directed directly into that swing arm, which is beautiful. This is where you start feeling, start slamming the gears, and as much as I can't do anything on this table, I would love to. But I'm just going to show you guys what I can do on this table, and it's basically throw this thing around a little bit. This thing, it makes the stop itself makes the gears feel very solid and very positive, and that's what I like about it. All right, so that concludes our video today on the install for the 91 to 94 shifter assembly. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a shout on Facebook or at dsm3dcreations.com or on Instagram, dsm3dcreations. Until then, we'll see you in the next one.